"It's too big to just sit down," the rancher said calmly, moments before she saw what was beneath her. The twin suns hung low over the desert horizon, painting the barren plains in shades of gold and crimson. A dry wind swept across the cracked earth, carrying with it the faint scent of minerals and something older, something that hinted at secrets long forgotten. Dr. Leela Carver adjusted the straps of her backpack and squinted against the glare. The settlement ahead looked tiny, almost like a cluster of toy houses scattered among the rocks. But this small outpost, she knew, hid something far bigger than the naked eye could see. She had heard the rumors from scholars and scavengers alike. A structure, buried beneath miles of rock and sand, older than any recorded civilization. No one had touched it in decades. No one had returned to claim what might lie beneath. Leela's curiosity burned hotter than the desert sun itself. She had spent years chasing mysteries across star systems, but this was different. A figure approached from the main street of the outpost. She was tall, with broad shoulders and the easy confidence of someone who had lived under harsh suns all her life. Her clothes were practical, dusty from long days in the field, and her hat shaded a face lined by years of sun and wind. The woman stopped a few steps from Leela and smiled faintly. "You're Dr. Carver," the woman said, her voice calm, even friendly. "Came looking for the big one, huh?" Leela nodded, slightly taken aback. "Yes, I've read the reports. I know," the rancher said, cutting her off gently. "Name S. Mara Jensen. I've been keeping an eye on that area for most of my life. I know what's beneath it." She paused, her eyes narrowing toward the distant ridge. "It's too big for most people to handle. You need to be careful. Not everything down there is friendly or even alive, for that matter." Leela tried to hide her excitement behind a polite smile. "I'm prepared for danger. I've encountered hostile environments before. I'm careful, but I also like to understand things firsthand." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Understanding something firsthand doesn't mean it doesn't bite back. Sit down. Rest a bit before we go. That curiosity of yours will serve you better if you're not burning out." Leela hesitated, then followed Mara to a small wooden bench outside the only tavern in the outpost. From her seat, she could see the vast desert stretch toward the ridge. Even from here, the land seemed alive with shadows and shapes that shifted in the sunlight. "You're brave," Mara said quietly, almost to herself. "Or foolish. Hard to tell sometimes." "Maybe both," Leela replied, smiling. They sat in silence for a moment, the wind carrying the faint hum of machinery from the distant mining sites. Leela pulled out her data pad, scanning schematics and old photographs taken by satellites decades ago. The images showed a flat desert plain, with strange formations scattered across it, rocky protrusions, some so uniform they looked artificial. And in the center, a dark outline hinted at the anomaly below, though no one could measure its full depth. "You've read the reports," Mara said, peering over her shoulder. "So you know why most people avoid it, but seeing it, feeling it, that's different. It's not just big. It's alive in a way. You can't just study it on a pad or a screen. You have to watch it, listen to it, and even then it doesn't always tell the truth." Leela frowned, intrigued. "Alive? You mean sentient?" Mara shrugged. "I don't know, maybe not. But it reacts to movement, to energy, to presence. You humans think you understand patterns, logic, but this thing, it might be thinking in ways you can't even imagine." Leela felt a thrill run through her. That was exactly the challenge she had come for. Other civilizations had explored the outer systems for centuries, but they had never cracked the mystery of this anomaly. Humans, she believed, had a unique ability to adapt, to see connections others couldn't. Maybe that was why she had been chosen for this expedition. Maybe humans were exactly the species meant to uncover it. "All right," Mara said finally, standing and brushing sand from her clothes. "You ready to see it up close?" Leela nodded, heart pounding with anticipation. They walked together to Mara's vehicle, a rugged hover truck designed for desert travel. Its wheels lifted slightly off the ground, gliding smoothly over the rough terrain. Mara climbed in first, then Leela followed. She noticed the calm way Mara handled the controls, as if the desert itself obeyed her command. The journey to the ridge was long and silent, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional gust of wind. The closer they got, the more Leela could feel it, a subtle vibration through the ground, like a heartbeat from beneath the sand. Her instruments picked up faint energy fluctuations, impossible to classify. When they finally reached the ridge, Mara stopped the truck and gestured for Leela to step out. Leela's jaw dropped. From this height, the anomaly stretched farther than she had imagined. The surface was jagged, with strange geometric patterns etched into the stone and occasional glimpses of smooth metallic structures that seemed almost impossibly advanced. Leela's voice caught. It's huge." Mara nodded calmly. "I told you, too big, don't rush it, sit, look. Understand it before you touch it. Most people don't survive the excitement." Leela lowered herself onto the ridge, trying to absorb every detail. Her instruments whirred softly, analyzing energy fields, structural patterns, and even minor chemical traces in the air. She realized something remarkable. The anomaly, despite its alien origin, seemed almost compatible with human thinking. Its design followed rules that humans could decipher, patterns that hinted at logic humans could understand. "Why do you think it's like this?" Leela asked. Mara shrugged. "Maybe humans are lucky. Maybe we just have the right combination of curiosity and stubbornness to make sense of things that shouldn't be understood. Or maybe it wants to be understood. Some things in this universe, they wait for the right species." Leela considered that. She had always felt humans were special, but now she could sense it, something deep, something that made her blood hum with anticipation. This anomaly wasn't just a mystery, it was a challenge. And she, for all her eagerness and recklessness, was exactly the right person to meet it. The wind shifted again, stronger this time, carrying a faint metallic tang that made Leela's skin prickle. Somewhere deep below, the anomaly stirred. It was as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for the first human to step closer. Mara glanced down at her instruments, then back at Leela. "You ready?" she asked, her calm voice steady despite the enormity of what lay beneath. Leela nodded, her eyes fixed on the abyss. "Yes, let's see what's beneath us." Mara smiled faintly, shaking her head. "You humans always in such a hurry, just remember it's not about speed, it's about patience, understanding, respect." Leela rose slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. She had come here seeking knowledge, adventure, and perhaps glory. But standing on the ridge, she understood something deeper. This was not just a test of skill. It was a test of the human spirit itself. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert, Leela and Mara prepared to descend. Below lay the unknown, vast, ancient, and unimaginably powerful. And yet in the quiet determination of the human heart, there was hope. They were ready. And whatever lay beneath, it would finally meet humanity. The ridge overlooked the anomaly like a silent, sleeping giant. From this height, the surface looked jagged and twisted, a mixture of rock, metal, and shapes that no natural formation could produce. Leela Carver felt a shiver run through her. Even from afar, she could sense the magnitude of what lay below. It was as if the planet itself had been waiting for someone to notice. Mara Jensen stood beside her, calm as always, brushing dust from her sleeves. "Remember," she said, her voice steady against the rising wind, "don't rush. You can't force it to reveal itself. You need patience. Watch it, listen to it." Leela took a deep breath and nodded. "I can feel it," she admitted. "It's massive and alive in a way." "Like it knows we're here," Mara smiled faintly. "Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but that feeling, that's what keeps humans alive in places like this. You feel danger before it touches you, and that's a gift." Leela glanced at her instruments. Her scanners, which could detect energy fluctuations and structural anomalies across light years, were going haywire. Readings bounced up and down, erratic, impossible to categorize. She frowned. The energy, it's unstable, but the patterns, there's a rhythm, like a heartbeat. It's intelligent, Mara nodded. Some things aren't just energy, not just matter. Some things are memories, histories. You can't read them with a pad, you have to see them. The two women descended the ridge slowly, carefully, following a path that Mara knew would be safe, or as safe as the area could get. The closer they came, the more the anomaly revealed itself. What first appeared as jagged stone now showed hints of smooth, metallic surfaces, polished as though some long-lost civilization had designed them with purpose. Intricate geometric patterns ran across the exposed surfaces, glowing faintly in the dim light of the twin suns. Leela crouched to examine the closest surface, brushing away layers of dust. She marveled at the design. These lines, they're too precise. Nothing natural could form like this. Mara stood back. Exactly. And yet, despite the precision, it's not rigid. It's adaptable. It bends around the land as if it knows the desert is alive. You humans notice patterns other species miss. That's your strength. Leela smiled. She liked that Mara understood her obsession. Most people, when confronted with the alien, either ran or froze. Mara didn't. She had lived alongside danger her whole life, and she respected the anomaly rather than fearing it. They continued forward, moving carefully along the surface. Every step Leela took seemed to trigger tiny reactions in the structure beneath them. Panels shifted, subtle vibrations coursed through the rock, and faint hums resonated in the air. Leela's instruments tracked it all, recording data at a pace even she struggled to process. "See," Mara said quietly, "it notices, it responds, but it doesn't act with anger. Not yet. That's important. You don't want it to see you as prey." "What is it?" Leela whispered. "A machine, a city, a weapon," Mara shrugged. "I don't know, could be all of them, could be none. Some things just exist. They're older than the stars humans can chart, and they don't fit your categories. You'll find that out soon enough." The air grew cooler as they approached a depression in the desert, a massive crater, hidden from view by the ridge. Within it, parts of the anomaly were exposed, shimmering under the sun. Leela gasped. The sheer size was beyond comprehension. Even her instruments couldn't map it fully. It stretched farther than the eye could see, disappearing into shadows at its edges. "This," Leela said, unable to find words. "It's enormous." Mara nodded, kneeling to inspect the ground. "I told you, too big for most people to handle, but humans see the impossible and think, maybe I can, maybe I should. That's what makes you dangerous, in a good way." They descended carefully into the crater, Leela's boots crunching against loose stones and shards of metal. The anomaly hummed faintly, almost imperceptibly, like a living creature breathing. She could feel the vibration under her feet, a steady rhythm that resonated with her own heartbeat. It was strange and exhilarating and terrifying all at once. The crater floor was littered with debris, broken panels, fragments of unknown metals, and strange crystal formations that pulsed with soft light. Leela knelt beside one, brushing away sand. The crystals seemed to react to her touch, their glow intensifying slightly. "See," Mara said from behind. "It's alive in a way you can understand. Not biologically, but it responds. You humans have an instinct for patterns, for cause and effect that other species don't. That's why you're here. That's why you survived on every world you've colonized." Leela's mind raced. Every human she knew, every explorer, every scientist, this was their advantage. Other civilizations relied on brute force or rigid logic. Humans could improvise. Humans could notice tiny details and make leaps of understanding that no machine or alien species could predict. She examined a fragment of metal, tracing its smooth edges. Tiny etchings covered its surface, a code written in symbols she had never seen before. She ran her fingers over them, letting her mind search for patterns. Slowly, a rhythm emerged, a repeating sequence like a message designed to be understood by someone clever enough to notice. "It's a message," she murmured, "or instructions, something like a guide." Mara nodded. "Exactly, and humans. You notice things others miss. You're stubbornly curious. You don't give up when the answer is too hard. That's your edge." As they moved deeper, the anomaly's surface changed again. Smooth panels rose like walls, forming corridors and tunnels that seemed deliberately designed to guide intruders, or perhaps to challenge them. Leela's excitement grew. She felt like she had stepped into a puzzle, one crafted by a mind far older and more advanced than humanity, yet somehow compatible with human thinking. The faint hum of energy increased as they walked. Leela felt it in her chest, a resonance that made her pulse quicken. The anomaly seemed to sense her presence, evaluating her. Every step was a question, and she was answering with courage and intellect. Suddenly, a section of the floor shifted beneath them. Leela stumbled, and Mara caught her by the arm. "Careful," she said. "It's testing you." Not with violence, but with awareness. Don't fall for the obvious path. Think. Leela steadied herself, eyes scanning the surroundings. Tiny details, the placement of debris, the angle of shadows, even the faint energy pulses, hinted at safer routes through the anomaly. Her mind worked quickly, connecting patterns and predicting the structure's subtle reactions. "You see," Mara said quietly, almost reverently, "humans aren't just survivors. You're problem solvers. You adapt. You notice. You act when others freeze. That's why you're here." They reached a wider section of the crater, where massive panels leaned at impossible angles. The scale was staggering. Leela felt like an ant beneath a cathedral built by some ancient god. Yet, unlike the myths she had read in history books, this place didn't crush her spirit. It challenged it. It demanded creativity, courage, and intelligence, all traits humans had in abundance. "Look at this," Leela whispered, pointing at a glowing panel embedded in the rock. Faint lines ran across it, forming a network she recognized immediately. It resembled neural connections. "It's a brain, or something like it." Mara leaned closer. "Could be, or maybe it's a control system or a storage device. Doesn't matter. Humans can figure out what others can't because you try, you experiment, you think differently." Leela's fingers hovered over the panel. She hesitated, then pressed lightly. Immediately, the structure responded. Sections shifted, creating a narrow passage leading deeper into the anomaly. Light reflected off the walls, casting strange patterns across the desert floor. The hum grew louder, like a welcome or perhaps a challenge. Mara watched silently. "See, it acknowledges you, not as an intruder, not as prey, as something capable. And humans, for all your flaws, are capable. That's why you survive. That's why you endure. That's why you'll see things others never will." Leela stepped forward, heart racing. Every sense was on alert. She had descended into the unknown, and the anomaly seemed alive with anticipation. She realized something profound. The danger wasn't meant to scare her away. It was meant to prepare her, to measure her, to ensure that only the clever, observant, and persistent could continue. The sun dipped lower behind the horizon, and shadows stretched across the crater. The anomaly glowed faintly in the dim light, almost as if it were breathing. Leela felt a thrill unlike anything she had experienced before. This was no ordinary discovery. This was a living challenge, tailored for humans. And she was ready. The narrow passage yawned before Leela and Mara like a dark mouth, swallowing the last rays of sunlight from the desert. The air inside was cooler, heavier, and carried a faint metallic tang that made Leela's senses tingle. Every step she took echoed softly, bouncing off walls that shimmered faintly with strange light. "Careful," Mara whispered. "These passages aren't just corridors, they're tests. Every movement, every choice, it watches, it measures. Don't rush." Leela's pulse quickened. She had never felt anything like this. The structure was enormous, ancient, and impossibly complex, yet she could feel threads of logic woven through it. Tiny patterns in the walls, the angles of panels, the faint hums, they all made sense to her in a way no machine or alien species could anticipate. Humans had a talent for seeing what others overlooked. That talent was what had brought her here, and what would carry her further. As they moved deeper, the passage widened. Strange metallic walls rose on either side, polished smooth in some places, etched with intricate patterns in others. The etchings glowed faintly, pulsing with an energy rhythm that mirrored the anomaly's subtle vibrations. Leela knelt to study them, brushing away dust and debris. "These symbols," she murmured, tracing her fingers over the lines, "they're like a language, but not a language I've ever seen. It's more like instructions." Mara watched quietly, her expression unreadable. "Could be. Or it could be a warning, doesn't matter. Humans notice what others don't. That's why you'll make sense of it. That's why you're still standing while others have walked away." The deeper they went, the more the anomaly seemed to respond. Panels shifted slightly under their feet, creating new roots and sealing off old ones. Lights flickered in sequences that hinted at logic, patterns that humans could decipher. Leela realized with a thrill that the structure was testing them, measuring intelligence, adaptability, courage. It was alive not biologically, but as a system designed to interact with those capable of understanding it. "This is incredible," Leela whispered. "It's like it wants to be understood, but only by the right species." Mara nodded, keeping her eyes on the path ahead. "Maybe it does, and humans. You're just stubborn enough to figure it out." The passage led them to a vast chamber. Leela stopped at the threshold, awestruck. The room stretched farther than she could see, its ceiling lost in shadow. Metallic structures rose like towers from the floor, connected by glowing lines that pulsed faintly. Strange machinery hummed softly, almost imperceptibly. "It's a city," Leela breathed, unable to tear her eyes away. "Or something like it." Mara remained calm. "A city is for humans, this is older than any civilization you know, and yet it's familiar enough for you to understand. That's your gift." Leela stepped forward cautiously, running her hands over a panel. It vibrated slightly under her touch, and the glow of the etchings intensified. A soft hum filled the chamber, and Leela realized the anomaly was reacting to them, not as threats, not as intruders, but as something capable of comprehension. "This is incredible," she murmured. "It's responding to us." Mara nodded. "Exactly. You're not just exploring, Leela. You're being acknowledged. That's rare. Most beings that come here aren't clever enough to trigger a reaction." They moved deeper into the chamber. The machinery hummed in sync with the vibration of the structure itself. Panels shifted, creating new passages, and Leela noticed that the anomaly seemed to anticipate her movements. It was as if it expected humans to adapt, to think, to innovate. "This is like a puzzle," Leela said, tracing the patterns along a glowing panel. "And it's designed for humans." Mara smiled faintly. "Humans are clever. We notice patterns others don't. We improvise when we have no choice. That's why we survive. That's why we thrive. And that's why this place is waiting for us." As they ventured further, Leela discovered more of the anomaly's secrets. She found panels that responded to touch, glowing brighter or dimming based on pressure and motion. She noticed patterns in the energy hums that mirrored natural rhythms, heartbeats, pulses, even steps. The anomaly seemed to communicate in subtle ways, and humans, with their curiosity and ingenuity, were the perfect audience. Suddenly, a section of the floor shifted beneath them. Leela stumbled, catching herself on a nearby panel. The structure had changed, forming a narrow bridge over a deep chasm that hadn't been there before. The hum of energy grew louder, resonating through her bones. "It's testing us," Mara said calmly. "Not with danger, but with awareness. Don't panic, think, observe, adapt." Leela took a deep breath and stepped carefully onto the bridge. The anomaly's responsiveness amazed her. Every movement, every shift of weight seemed to trigger a new pattern. It wasn't dangerous. It was alive, aware, and interactive. Humans thrived in uncertainty, and this place was designed to challenge that very trait. At the far end of the bridge, they entered another chamber, this one filled with crystalline formations. They pulsed with a soft, internal light, responding to movement and sound. Leela knelt beside one, brushing her fingers against its smooth surface. The glow intensified, and she realized that the crystals were more than decoration. They were data storage, memory, knowledge, history. These crystals, she whispered, they're recording something. They're alive in a way I can understand. They store information. Mara watched silently. And humans will unlock it. That's why you're here. Other species might see beauty. Humans see function. Humans notice connections, solve problems, and adapt to the unknown. That's why we're still standing and why this place responds to us. Leela's mind raced as she studied the crystals. She noticed patterns that hinted at energy flow, at circuits, at networks connecting chambers across the anomaly. Slowly, she realized that she could trace paths, predict shifts, and even anticipate the anomaly's responses. Humans were uniquely suited for this environment. Their brains could interpret complexity that would baffle machines or other species. "This is incredible," she murmured. "It's a library, but it's alive. It reacts, adapts, and waits for someone clever enough to understand it." Mara nodded. "Exactly, and humans are that species. Clever, stubborn, adaptable. We survive where others fail. We notice patterns others miss. We take risks when others hesitate. That's why you're here." Leela moved further into the chamber, marveling at the scale. The crystals stretched toward a distant wall, connected by beams of glowing light. Tiny drones hovered around, scanning the environment. They didn't attack. They didn't alarm. They observed, testing her reactions, analyzing her problem-solving skills. She realized that the anomaly wasn't hostile. It wasn't a trap. It was a challenge, a test of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Humans thrived in these conditions. They improvised, they observed, and they acted where others would freeze. Leela began experimenting, pressing crystals, stepping on panels, tracing energy flows. Slowly, doors opened, pathways shifted, and new chambers revealed themselves. The anomaly reacted predictably to her logic, yet unpredictably enough to keep her alert. This balance of challenge and comprehension was uniquely human. Mara watched silently, letting Leela explore. She knew that humans had a rare combination of traits, curiosity, courage, adaptability, that allowed them to succeed where others failed. Leela was a perfect example. As they moved deeper, the hum of energy intensified. The anomaly seemed to pulse like a living organism, resonating with the presence of humans in a way that suggested awareness. Leela's pulse quickened in response. She felt alive, challenged, and exhilarated. "This is beyond anything I've imagined," she whispered. "It's not just a structure, it's alive. It thinks, adapts, and responds, and it's designed for us." Mara nodded. "Humans notice patterns others miss. We adapt to challenges no one else can. That's why we survive, that's why we thrive. And that's why we'll unlock the secrets this place holds." The chamber led to a steep incline, a natural ramp embedded with glowing panels. Leela and Mara began their ascent, careful to follow the anomaly's subtle cues. The energy hum resonated stronger here, pulsing like a heartbeat. Leela realized that the deeper they went, the more the structure revealed itself, testing them, guiding them, and rewarding their insight. At the top of the incline, they paused. A massive doorway loomed before them, covered with symbols, patterns, and faintly glowing lines. Leela felt a thrill run through her. Beyond this door lay the heart of the anomaly, perhaps the very source of its intelligence and power. Mara rested her hand lightly on the doorway. "This is it," she said calmly. "The heart, the center, be ready. The next step is where humans show why we belong here, not by strength, not by numbers, but by curiosity, courage, and ingenuity." Leela's heart raced. She had descended from the ridge, through passages, across bridges, and into chambers alive with energy and information. Now she stood on the threshold of the core, ready to see what the anomaly had been guarding for millennia. She stepped forward, her hand brushing the glowing symbols. The doorway responded. Panels shifted, lights pulsed, and a soft vibration ran through the ground. The anomaly acknowledged her. It was ready to reveal its secrets. And humans were ready to understand. The massive doorway shifted silently, revealing a chamber that seemed to stretch endlessly. Shadows danced across the walls as soft, pulsing light traced intricate patterns along the metallic surface. Leela Carver's heart raced. This was the heart of the anomaly, the source of the energy, the intelligence, the history that had remained hidden for millennia. Every instinct in her body screamed that this place was alive, and it was aware of their presence. Mara Jensen stood beside her, calm and steady as always. "Remember," she said, her voice low, "it's not about fear, it's about understanding. Watch, listen, and think before you act. That's what humans do better than anyone else." Leela nodded, taking careful steps into the chamber. The air was thick with energy, faintly humming as if the anomaly itself were breathing. Her instruments went wild, struggling to read the patterns and flows of power. The room was filled with structures, tall spires of metal and crystal, connected by glowing conduits that pulsed rhythmically. Tiny drones hovered among them, scanning everything with precise movements. "They're watching us," Leela whispered, feeling a thrill of both fear and excitement. "But they're not attacking, not yet." Mara shook her head. "No, this isn't a fight, it's a test. It wants to know what you can do. It wants to see if you're worthy." As they moved deeper, a section of the floor shifted suddenly. Panels slid into place, creating barriers and narrow passages. Leela froze for a moment, analyzing the pattern. The anomaly was adapting to their presence, changing the environment in response to their actions. "See," Mara said quietly, "it reacts to thought, not force. You have to think. Humans do that better than any other species." Leela stepped carefully through the passage, her mind racing. She noticed subtle clues in the energy flows, a faint glow here, a pulse there, a pattern in the drone movements. Each clue hinted at the safest path. Using her instincts and quick reasoning, she led them through the shifting maze. Suddenly, drones swarmed ahead, moving in formations that blocked the path. They weren't aggressive, but they were precise, analyzing every step. Leela realized these were defense mechanisms, designed to measure intelligence and adaptability rather than harm intruders directly. "They're testing us," she whispered. "They want to see if we can outthink them." Mara nodded. "Exactly, and humans are unpredictable. That's why you have an edge." Leela studied the drones. Their movements followed a strict logic, but she noticed tiny patterns, flaws, predictable sequences that no machine could anticipate if observed carefully. She whispered her plan to Mara. Together they moved in a sequence that confused the drones, using the anomaly's own logic against it. The drones paused, recalculated, and then shifted aside, allowing them passage. "That's it," Leela said, exhilarated. "We're reading it. We're adapting faster than it expected." Mara smiled faintly. "Humans notice what others overlook. You see connections where others see chaos. That's why you're still standing." They pressed on, deeper into the chamber. The hum of energy grew stronger, vibrating through the floor and walls. Panels shifted, opening new paths, revealing intricate machinery and strange symbols etched into the surfaces. Leela knelt beside a control panel, brushing dust from its surface. The symbols glowed faintly under her touch, forming a sequence she could interpret intuitively. "This is incredible," she murmured. "It's giving us instructions, or maybe just a pattern to follow." Mara observed silently. "And you can understand it. That's the point. Most beings would see symbols and panic. Humans see patterns, adapt, and act. That's why you belong here." As they moved further, the chamber narrowed, and the energy hum grew louder. Leela's instruments indicated immense power flowing through the walls, conduits, and spires. She realized the anomaly could destroy them in an instant if it chose, but it didn't. It was measuring their reactions, their choices, their courage. Suddenly, a section of the floor shifted beneath them again, creating a deep chasm. Leela froze, instinctively stepping back. The drones hovered above, analyzing every movement. She realized the anomaly was testing spatial awareness, reasoning, and risk assessment. "We can't jump," Mara said calmly. "We need to think." Leela scanned the edges of the chasm, noting faint energy pulses that hinted at invisible platforms. Using her quick reasoning, she calculated the timing and placement of each step. She guided Mara carefully across the gap, moving in harmony with the anomaly's responses. The drones followed but did not interfere directly, only observing and adjusting the environment subtly. When they reached the other side, Leela let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "It's incredible," she whispered. "It's testing everything: thinking, adaptability, courage, and we're passing." Mara nodded. "Humans are designed for challenges like this. You improvise. You notice, you survive when others would fail. That's why you're here." They entered a vast open chamber at the anomaly's center. Crystalline structures rose like spires, pulsing with energy that seemed almost conscious. Panels floated in midair, shifting gently as if alive. Leela's eyes widened. This was not just a structure, it was a living system, an intelligence, a network that had existed for millennia. This is the core," she whispered. "Everything is connected here. Energy, information, it's all linked." Mara's voice was calm but filled with awe. "And it's waiting for humans to unlock it. Others would panic, break things, fail. But humans adapt." Leela knelt beside one of the crystals, brushing her fingers along its surface. It pulsed in response, as if acknowledging her touch. She realized the anomaly wasn't hostile. It wasn't a trap. It was a challenge, a living test designed to measure intelligence, problem-solving, and adaptability. She began experimenting, touching panels, tracing energy flows, following the faint cues of the drones. Slowly, the anomaly responded, opening new pathways, revealing deeper chambers, and projecting faint holographic symbols that hinted at knowledge long lost. "It's teaching us," Leela whispered, "showing us the paths, but we have to think, adapt, understand." Mara nodded. "Exactly, that's humans. You survive by noticing patterns, improvising, and acting where others would hesitate. That's why we'll succeed here." The anomaly's hum grew louder, resonating with Leela's pulse. The chambers shifted around them, creating complex pathways that would have confused any other species. But humans, with their intuition and adaptability, navigated them instinctively. Suddenly, a corridor ahead glowed bright red. Leela's sensors indicated increased energy fluctuations, something dangerous. The drones swarmed near the ceiling, hovering in a defensive pattern. "It's a challenge," Mara said. "Not an attack. Think carefully. Observe, then act." Leela studied the patterns of the drones, the timing of the energy pulses, and the glowing red corridor. She noticed a sequence, a rhythm in the lights, the drones' movements, and the energy fluctuations. Using her instincts and reasoning, she calculated the exact moment to move. She gestured to Mara, and together they advanced, step by step, perfectly synchronized. The anomaly reacted to their movements, shifting panels to guide them safely, rewarding their cleverness. Leela felt a thrill unlike anything she had experienced before. This wasn't just survival, it was recognition. The anomaly acknowledged their intelligence, their courage, and their humanity. When they finally crossed the red-lit corridor, the chamber opened into a vast room filled with holographic projections of alien technology, energy patterns, and data streams. Leela's jaw dropped. This was a vault of knowledge, a library of civilizations long extinct, encoded into a living, reactive system. They stored everything here," Leela whispered. "Knowledge, technology, civilizations lost to time." Mara's voice was quiet but firm. And humans can understand it, that's why we're here. Other species might see complexity and run. Humans see opportunity and solve it. That's why we survive. That's why we thrive. Leela stepped forward, touching a projection. Instantly, the anomaly responded, revealing sequences of energy, machinery, and structures she could interpret. She realized that humans were uniquely capable of understanding this system, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they could think differently, adapt, and improvise. This is beyond anything I imagined, she said, awe in her voice. It's alive and it's teaching us. It knows humans are capable, Mara nodded. And that's why it chose to reveal itself now. Humans are the perfect explorers, problem solvers, and innovators. That's what makes us extraordinary. The anomaly pulsed with light, almost as if acknowledging her words. Leela's heart swelled with pride, wonder, and determination. Humans had come far in the universe, but here, in this living structure, their unique qualities, curiosity, courage, and adaptability, were the key to unlocking secrets that no other species could. And Leela knew one thing for certain. Whatever lay ahead, humans were ready. The chamber stretched endlessly before Leela and Mara, glowing with a soft, pulsating light. Holographic projections of alien machinery, energy flows, and intricate networks filled the space, illuminating symbols that shimmered like stars. The anomaly had revealed itself fully now, but even in its grandeur, it seemed to respect them, waiting for their understanding. Leela took a cautious step forward, her fingers brushing a floating projection. Instantly, the holograms shifted, responding to her touch. A cascade of symbols and patterns unfolded before her eyes, flowing like a river of knowledge. She felt as though she could see the thoughts of the anomaly itself, the ancient intelligence encoded in every pulse and light. Mara stood silently, observing. "This is it," she said. "The core, the heart. Whatever this thing is, it's showing you everything it knows. And you're ready." Leela's pulse raced. She realized that the anomaly was not just a structure, it was a repository, a living archive of civilizations long lost. Machines, architecture, energy systems, knowledge of worlds, everything lay encoded in the patterns before her. Most species would see this and panic, overwhelmed by its scale and complexity. But humans thrived on challenge. Humans could adapt, innovate, and think differently. That was why they had come this far. She reached for a series of floating panels, and as her fingers touched them, the anomaly responded again, projecting a massive, three-dimensional map of the entire structure. Energy conduits pulsed along the map, showing connections she could follow, sequences she could understand. She realized she could control the flow of information simply by interpreting patterns and making choices, a test of intelligence that humans were uniquely equipped to pass. This is incredible," Leela whispered. "It's not just storage, it's alive. It's thinking, but it's designed for someone to understand it, someone clever enough to follow patterns, see connections, adapt, and act." Mara's eyes softened with pride. Humans. That's why we survive where others fail. We notice patterns others miss. We improvise when no one else can. We take risks when it matters. And that's why you're standing here, learning what others never could. Leela studied the holographic map. She noticed faint energy pulses leading to a central core deep within the anomaly. The path was complex, full of twists, turns, and challenges. But to her, the sequence made sense. The anomaly had designed it this way deliberately, testing those who entered. Humans, with their curiosity, intuition, and adaptability, were uniquely capable of deciphering it. "We need to go deeper," Leela said. "This core, it's where everything is stored. It's the heart of the anomaly. If we can reach it, we'll understand everything." Mara nodded. "Be ready. The challenges ahead will test every skill you have, logic, courage, adaptability. But humans thrive in tests like this." They moved forward, navigating a maze of shifting panels and pulsing energy fields. The anomaly responded to each step, guiding them while subtly testing their choices. Tiny drones hovered nearby, observing, analyzing, but never attacking. Every obstacle was a puzzle, and every puzzle rewarded ingenuity. Leela reached a section where the floor was missing, replaced by a field of glowing energy strands stretching into darkness. One misstep could mean falling into an abyss. She studied the patterns, noticing faint pulses that indicated stable paths. "Step carefully," Mara said. "It's testing balance, observation, and patience." Leela nodded. Using her intuition, she followed the subtle pulses, moving with deliberate precision. The anomaly seemed to acknowledge her skill, stabilizing the energy strands under her feet as she crossed. When she reached solid ground again, a sense of exhilaration washed over her. She had adapted. She had succeeded where most would fail. Deeper still, they entered a room where massive crystalline towers rose like fingers toward an unseen ceiling. Each crystal pulsed with internal energy, casting light across intricate machinery embedded in the walls. Leela could feel the vibrations resonating with her heartbeat. "These crystals," she whispered, "they're alive. They store information, memories, knowledge of civilizations long gone." Mara's voice was quiet but firm. "And humans can understand it. We notice patterns others miss, improvise when needed, adapt to the unknown. That's why you're here. That's why you can survive what others never could." Leela stepped forward, touching one of the crystals. It glowed brighter under her hand, projecting an intricate holographic sequence. Symbols, machines, architecture, even energy networks of long-extinct worlds unfolded before her eyes. She realized that the anomaly was offering knowledge, not just to be observed, but to be interpreted, understood, and applied. "This is a gift," Leela whispered, awe in her voice. "Knowledge of civilizations we never even knew existed. Technology beyond anything humanity has yet achieved. Secrets of the universe itself." Mara nodded. "And humans are capable of understanding it. Not because we are the strongest, not because we are the fastest, but because we think differently. We adapt, we create, we solve problems others can't. That's why we belong here." Leela's mind raced. She began tracing energy flows, following the patterns projected by the crystals. She realized she could manipulate the sequences, opening access to deeper layers of knowledge. The anomaly responded instantly, shifting panels and projections to guide her. Humans could interpret complexity that other species could not. Humans could adapt to uncertainty and innovate when faced with impossible challenges. "This is beyond anything I imagined," Leela whispered. "It's alive, it's teaching us, and it's trusting us." Mara's calm voice cut through the awe. "And you will honor that trust. Humans survive because we respect challenges. We learn, we adapt, and that's why we'll unlock what others never could." They reached the central core, a massive chamber where crystalline structures converged into a single, pulsating crystal. Energy flowed through it in intricate networks, connecting everything they had seen before. Leela stepped forward, her hand hovering above the crystal. She could feel its intelligence, the pulse of its energy, the depth of its knowledge. "This is it," she whispered. "The heart of the anomaly, everything leads here, everything is connected." Mara's eyes shone with quiet pride. "And humans will understand it. We notice patterns others miss. We adapt where others fail. We survive challenges others can't. That's why we belong here." Leela placed her hand on the crystal. Immediately, a surge of light and energy enveloped her, projections of alien knowledge flowing into her mind. She saw technologies, histories, architectures, energy systems, and civilizations lost to time. The scale was unimaginable, yet her human intuition made sense of it. Patterns emerged, sequences aligned, connections formed. Humans were capable of understanding what other species could not because of their adaptability, ingenuity, and relentless curiosity. "It's incredible," Leela breathed. "It's not just information. It's a history of the galaxy encoded in a living system. And it's sharing it with us. It trusts humans. Mara placed a steady hand on her shoulder. And humans deserve that trust. We notice what others overlook. We innovate where others stagnate. We survive challenges others cannot. That's the difference. That's why we thrive. Leela felt a profound sense of connection, not just to the anomaly, but to humanity itself. For all their flaws, humans were uniquely capable of understanding the universe, of seeing patterns, solving puzzles, and thriving in the unknown. The anomaly had tested them, measured them, and ultimately acknowledged them as worthy. She began to explore the projections, mapping energy flows, studying technology, and deciphering the history embedded in the crystal. Hours passed like minutes as she navigated the vast repository of knowledge. Every discovery reinforced one truth: humans were exceptional. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they were adaptable, intelligent, and endlessly curious. Finally, Leela turned to Mara. "We've done it, we've understood it, we've passed the test." Mara nodded, her calm confidence unwavering. "Yes, humans survive, humans endure, humans unlock what others cannot, and this is just the beginning." The anomaly pulsed softly, as if in approval. The chambers around them shifted subtly, projecting new sequences, revealing new possibilities. Humans had been recognized, not just as explorers, but as inheritors of knowledge far beyond what the galaxy had ever seen. Leela took a deep breath, feeling awe, pride, and determination. "We can take this knowledge, use it to help humanity explore further, build, understand the universe in ways others never could." Mara's eyes gleamed. "Exactly. Humans don't just survive, we thrive, we create, we explore. And now we carry the legacy of what this anomaly has preserved, all because we dared to notice, to adapt, to understand." For the first time, Leela understood the anomaly's true purpose. It was not merely a structure, a test, or a repository. It was a challenge designed to recognize those capable of comprehension, those who could adapt and innovate. And humans, curious, inventive, courageous humans, were exactly that species. She turned back to the crystal, studying its patterns. Every pulse, every projection, every network whispered the same truth. Humans were extraordinary, not because they were perfect, but because they could think, adapt, and persevere where others could not. And as the anomaly pulsed around them, acknowledging their success, Leela felt a surge of pride. Humanity had not only survived the test, it had triumphed. The sun outside dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert, but inside the anomaly, light and energy flowed endlessly. Knowledge, history, and possibility stretched in every direction. Leela and Mara stood at the heart of it all, humans in a universe that had long underestimated them. And now they were ready. Ready to carry the secrets, the wisdom, and the power forward. Ready to explore, adapt, and thrive. Ready to prove that humans, against all odds, were extraordinary. The anomaly pulsed once more, a final acknowledgement. Humanity had passed the ultimate test. And in that moment, Leela knew the universe had never seen anything like them, and it never would again. Humans were here to stay, and the stars were waiting.